Hi, Siddharth.
Hello, morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, we're just getting started. Uh, yes. Okay. So, uh, so welcome everyone to the session on Introduction to Yoga Psychology or Yogic Psychology. Uh, we'll start as always with a short prayer. So, those who are familiar can repeat after me. There's a prayer from the Upanishads, which is when we start any learning session. Sort of, we start with this intention that our learning be bright, tejasvi, be vigorous, be enlightening, and may there be no hostility. So we start with that wish. So we'll do it lead and follow. So I'll say one line, then you can repeat after me. So sit comfortably. If you are on a chair, let your feet be comfortably flat on the ground, your back supported, shoulders relaxed. Bring your attention to your breath. You can repeat after me. Oh. सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Hello, Rajendra ji. Hello, Priya. Uh, welcome to the Introduction to Yogic Psychology session. So we have about, I think, total 1 hour plus 20 odd minutes together. So what I'll try and do today is to sort of introduce this topic, give that context, which is itself not there. So I'll try and cover it in three parts. So the topic is yogic psychology. So I'll start with just what is psychology, how do we understand it, how does modern science understand it. Then we'll look at what is yoga. Right, I've kept the A in the bracket because of it's now known as yoga, but that's double A, which doesn't exist. So sort of to highlight that what is yoga, and then what is yogic psychology in that context, right? So how does yoga see psychology? So that's how we'll cover today's. And I think, as always, just feel free to ask questions in the middle, particularly as we go along, and I'll keep suggesting some activities as well. Okay, so let's start with what is psychology. So I took the definition from the American Psychology Association. So let's take the modern definition. So they define it as psychology is the study of the mind and behavior. This is very important. The study of mind and behavior. So what is it? Behavior is what is external to us, and mind is what is internal to us. So mind is like the thoughts, beliefs, emotions, etc., and which is internal in some ways to our system. And behavior is what shows up, like our actions or expressions or in any form that comes. So it is the study of mind and behavior. And when it is a study, it from a Western standpoint, it typically is to be seen as an independent third party. So that is why in Western systems there is a psychologist, right, who is studying the mind and behavior of a third person, right? It's not, it's externalized in that sense, right? So it is the study of the mind and behavior. So we'll keep this definition and come back to it as we define yogic psychology in the end, right? The other definition, which is also seen in the terms that may have come up, is that psychology is the study of the conscious and subconscious mind. So some people think of psychology just as the mind. But they divide then the mind as conscious, subconscious. There may be some other definitions also, some other kinds, unconscious mind, etc. But this is what I found also in some other places. And here, one of the very reputed modern neuro psychiatrist, Candice Pert, she is known as the mother of this field of psycho-endo-neuroimmunology, Penny. So this is her statement. So this is her bio. I'll leave you to read it, but very well renowned neuroscientist, pharmacologist, discovered many things. Like I said, she is known as the mother of psychoneuroimmunology and the goddess of neuroscience. So she discovered many things, rather discovered something for the first time, which was how to isolate some neurotransmitter, and that led to a whole series of things. She defines this that your body is your subconscious mind. So in psychology is a study of the conscious and the subconscious mind. In her experience, she defines it that the body is your subconscious mind. In fact, there's a book by this title. Another fantastic book by her out of the many that she has written is also called Molecule of Emotions. So she's a very well-known neuroscientist and very, very good videos to look at. So we'll keep those as sort of two, let's say, emerging definitions of psychology, right? We'll keep that in the back of our mind when we come back to finally defining yogic psychology. We'll use this. One is from the American Psychology Association, which is very official, and this is what very commonly you will find as you even Google what is psychology. Okay. With these, anything else comes when you think of psychology itself, the word? Or these two cover it mostly? Or any other terms or things that you have come across? No? Good? Yeah? I can see you guys. Yeah, so can give whoever is on. Okay. So, yeah, so let's go with this. So, some ways psychology is an independent study of the conscious mind, body, and their connection we can talk about. Yeah. So now let's shift gears to understanding yoga, which is the sort of new part. So, what is yoga or yoga? So yoga or yoga comes from this Sanskrit word, or the root word is yuj. Okay. And in Sanskrit, we have these ashtadhyayis which define each of those connotations. So this has three connotations. So yuj comes in three ways. The first one is yuj samyoge. Samyog hona, jodna, right? Which can be translated as to unite or merge. Right. So automatically you can see already, and we will see in the other connotation, it's about it more than one thing, like two or more things to somehow come together in some form. Right. So one is yuj samyoge or jodna. And so this to me connotates something like how water and milk come together. Right. When we mix water with milk, what happens? They become one. Right. We can't separate. In fact, separation becomes a task almost not possible. That's why they have this mystical swan which can only drink water from and leave out the milk, right? That's why they come up with these. So it is that it becomes one. So it's a bringing together of two or more things to become one, like they are one. The other connotation is yuj samadho. Samadho or means samadhi in Hindi. This comes as to put together or to integrate. Two things are getting integrated. They are not merging. So what would be an example of this in our physical world? Like water and oil. Right? So when we mix water with oil, what happens? Anybody? I can unmute. Yeah. Go ahead.
They form different layers.
They form different layers, right? So even if you mix them, after some time, they will separate. They will different layers. But what is there? That there is a clear boundary. So there is a different interaction at the boundary. There are clear identities. They have their roles. You mix them, again, they will find that separation. So there is clear identity, but also there is a boundary where interaction happens. Right? So they are integrated in that sense. They are together in that sense, but yet have their identities. So that's another way of yuj, of yoga in some ways. And then there is yuj samyamane, right? Or sanyam. So this is sanyam. It's like there is a form of dynamic equilibrium. Right? There is dynamic equilibrium. And what would be an example of this? Anybody? In modern, like with water, what would be in dynamic equilibrium with?
soil. So,
Soil.
for example, if like what in a river, there's soil being carried, and sometimes it's part of suspended in it, and in some other places it settles down and forms like a delta.
Yeah. Okay. Any other?
Maybe water and ice at 0 degrees.
Water and ice at zero. Yeah. Water and ice at zero. And similarly, those are good examples. I came up with water and air, right? At any temperature, there's always that evaporation happening and condensation happening, right? So that is always there. There is water in air and there is air in water also, right? So there is oxygen in the water, we know, and there is water in the air. There is humidity there also. So they are always exchanging. And it's dynamic in the sense that it's not the same molecule, right? The molecules will keep changing. For those who don't know that part of science, they'll keep changing up and down, right? So some water molecules will go from there to air and some from the air will come to the water, right? At that interface again. And they somehow find that equilibrium and coexist. Right. So these are three just very different ways of so as to come together, two or more things to come together. And all three forms are, at least I think, as yoga. And not just me, our tradition does. So we have these 6 different schools of philosophy called darshanas, shat darshanas, right? So they emphasize on yoga in these different ways. So each one of them actually have created their different schools of philosophies in interpreting yoga this way. So we also have the freedom to see not yoga in one way. There is not only one thing known as yoga, right? And so we have come to now know yoga from asana and pranayam and all those things. But this is the origin of what is yoga, of what yoga really means in the original tradition, in how it was intended to be, right? And these are very different schools of philosophy also of yoga, of how it sees. Yeah. So any questions, comments on this from people? Is this new or people knew this?
Maybe, the second and the third one, that is also coming from Patanjali Yoga Sutra, or is it coming from some other?
No. So these are definitions in Ashtadhyayi, which is a Sanskrit grammar text, right? So it is a Sanskrit vocab text, or rather, not even grammar. So this is not coming from Yoga Sutras yet. This is just saying this is yoga. And
Okay.
Yoga Sutras is one of the Shat Darshans. It's one of the darshans. So it does
Correct.
see yoga in a certain way.
Correct.
But we find these different across. Bhagavad Gita actually goes across because it's trying to integrate. So you will find every chapter of Bhagavad Gita is a yoga. It's 18 yogas, but they fall under broadly under these kinds of categories. And then we see different schools, right? Dvait, Advait, Vishesh Advait. They are also creating yoga in a very different way, for example. So it gives us that room to explore yoga in the way we want, right? It's not one single way. And I do feel when we look at even Patanjali Yoga Sutras, while it talks of yoga in a certain way, it is in line with the Upanishads. It is in line with what the tradition is saying. So it encompasses all these also. It creates the possibility for all these also. Yeah. And that's how I would suggest as we explore also Yoga Sutras, we should see it in that broader sense. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hi, Shantu. Good to see you. Hi, Sujata. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's continue then. What is yoga? And then because this diversity in more modern times, 1893 is the first lecture of Swami Vivekananda. He's tried to bring these together, these different schools of yoga together into one. He's the first sort of, I think, who tried to integrate it in the modern context. After that, or Sri Aurobindo ji has also done the same, and then more others have come forward. Although most of them try and then specialize in one of, and we'll see how has he integrated. So this is one of his most famous, I think, quotes and something that we go by a lot. So he said this: each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy. By one or more, all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. Right? So, there's few very significant things he says. One is he's giving these 4 things that we'll talk of. Do this either, how to do. He says goal is to be free. And buy one or more or all of these. So you can choose whatever mix you want. Right? And be free. And what happens when you do this? He says the goal is to manifest this divinity within. This is the essence, he says, of all religion. His guru, Paramahans Ramakrishna ji was a spiritual scientist. He actually integrated so many religions in himself. He practiced first Kali Bhakti, then Advait, then he became a Christian for a few years, practiced that, he practiced Islam for a few years, and showed through his lived experience that all paths lead to the same place. That was his lived experience in each of these disciplines. So, and for coming from that space, he's basically saying this. Okay, so we will look at it, what that means. What he has done, one, as I said, defined the 4 paths of yoga. He sort of tried to integrate them in broad 4 paths. There are many sub-paths in each, but he's put them in 4th. The first one, by work, as he says, which is known as Karam Yoga. By worship, which we know as Bhakti Yoga. By psychic control, which we know as Raj Yoga. And then by philosophy, which we know as Gyan Yoga. Right, so Raj Yoga is what we'll discuss more today. That is the path also of yogic psychology. Like he said, psychic control. So, of course, that time the word control meant very different than what it means now. So, we dropped that word, we use it as yoga or yogic psychology. So, all these are the doing yoga, right? This is the part where we start doing yoga, the path, the tools, the techniques, the processes of yoga, right? And what does he say also? He says the goal is common. The goal is common to be in this state of yoga. So yoga is that, again, beautiful word which can both be a state as well as a process. It's used in both ways. As a state, as a process. It's like it's a stock as well as a flow. In accounting, we have either a stock entry or a flow. It's both. It's a state as well as it's about a flow. It's a process also. The word is used in both contexts, and it's used traditionally that way. Modern authors all have used it. There is a very interesting thing on this word yoga in how it is used. So he says the goal is common. It's like different streams merging, right? And the other way I visualize it is what's there behind me in my screen is it's like a mountain. The peak is one. You have to gaze, but there are many ways to reach the peak, right? You can go like this, any side. You can go like this by one or more or all of these, right? The difference will be you'll reach the top. The difference might be time, the steepness, the view will be different. It'll look very different. So we might keep fighting. Array, this doesn't happen because I'm only looking at it from this side. What's there on the mountain, I don't even know, right? But we'll keep fighting. Oh, this is the best path, right? And that's where all the problem starts. When we start saying this is the best path. The thing is, all are good paths. It's about what is the best for you. And that too in this moment, in the here and now. What works for you? That's what this is really about. Right? And that common goal, we call it as being in yoga, or how he has described it as manifesting the divinity within. So this is a process which allows you to connect with whatever divine, whatever we may call as divine, whatever we may call as ourself within you, and to be able to manifest that for the larger world, for the larger ecosystem. Right? So that's the context of yoga, that there is a state, there is an end state of yoga, which is the being in yoga, and there is a doing part. Right? The end state one can sort of try and normalize, rationalize across, but it is also very different based on from which path I enter. What I will see is slightly different as the first thing. And that's what happens many times. Many of the people who have gone their path, they have described what they experience very differently. It looks almost contradictory. But at that point, all becomes one. It's like you're moving to the origin. Everything is 0, 0, 0, right? So everything becomes the same. There is no differentiation. But just before 0, it will look different based on where you are coming from, right? So it's like that in some ways. Yeah. So yoga, both the process and there are 4 processes. So any questions here on what is yoga? I'll maybe take a quick pause here, see how is this landing for people. So we have seen yoga, the three connotations of yoga, and then the paths of yoga and the common goal. Making sense? Yeah. And you can see that these three connotations, how they are also playing out, right? They will also play out in this way, right? When we are thinking of the goal of yoga as manifesting divinity within, how somebody who sees it as a merging will experience it differently or describe it differently versus who sees it as oil and water versus who sees it as oil and air, right? So very different ways of seeing that same huge in some ways of the entities. Yeah. Okay, so let's then continue. We'll now move to actually what is the meat, right? Which is with that context, what is yogic psychology now, right? So what is...
Sandeepji,
Yeah.
one quick question, just one question. I noticed that in all the three analogies, there are two different substances: water
Yes.
and milk, water and oil, water and
Yes.
air. Is there also a sense in which the two substances can be seen as being the same, and it's water merging in water itself, as opposed to there being the need for a second substance?
Sure. Yeah. That too is there only. So finally, that is, of course, that what becomes is in that spirit, when water and milk comes together, it becomes whatever it is, right? It remains neither water nor milk. It becomes a new entity which is together in some ways, which is made up of that. Same way, water itself is made up of multiple entities, right? Water is not one entity, right? There is H2O and there are other things in water. We are seeing it as one, but it itself is, yeah. But you can see it that way also, yeah. One water merging with the other, like rivers flowing into the sea. Yes, totally. Yeah. And that's oftentimes how a lot of Advait eventually sees it as, right? So that's one school. That's why it falls there. Advait will never talk of this type of huge or this type, because for them it's very different. Yeah, to imagine that. Okay. Yeah, you can see the slide. What is yogic psychology? Now let's start looking at that. Now, so yogic psychology, as I said, is equal to Raj Yoga. Very simply, it is Raj Yoga, the way it is. I'll share some references, but of course, towards the end, where to get that and what it is. But essentially, Raj Yoga is what is captured in Yoga Sutras, which have been composed by Maharishi Patanjali. Right, so these are dated to anywhere between 2000 to 5000 years ago. Maharishi Patanjali, not so the Patanjali of some people got confused once when I said Patanjali. What does it have to do with Baba Ramdev? Nothing. So Baba Ramdev has named his organization Patanjali because of Maharishi Patanjali, because he wants to depict that he's going to the root of yoga, which is Maharishi Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Right, so that is the original text. It has only 195 or 196 sutras. So sutras are very terse sentences in Sanskrit. Very terse meaning very short. They are like formulas. So only 195, 196 such terse sentences capture this entire thing. Okay, so that is what comes under this, and that is what defines it. This is also where asana pranayam come in. Okay, out of those 195, since that curiosity might be there, because we know yoga as asana pranayam primarily, only 3 sutras are dedicated to asana. Out of 195, only 3. And only 5 sutras to pranayam. Right, so that is 8 sutras. The rest all, about 187 or 88 sutras are on the rest of what actually yoga is, what is the basis of yoga. So, but today, yoga has become largely that. Yeah. On the other side, which is very interesting, this Vipassana Research Institute did this analysis that more than 90% of the sutras have commonality with what are known as suttas of Buddha. So they are known as suttas because in Pali, in which they are composed, there is no ra sound. That's why dharma becomes dhamma also there, right? So that's why sutra becomes sutta. So these are Buddha's sutras in some ways. They have been encoded. Buddha's teachings, they are very, very tightly, very similar. It's hard to find that difference. So it's very similar to what Buddhist side looks at, but in somehow you can see how in the modern context Buddhism has gone the meditation route, right? So it seems like meditation is primarily what Buddha taught, and asana pranayam is what yoga taught. And now from asana pranayam there is some meditation also coming in, and some physical activities are coming in from the Buddhist also. They are very overlapping in their message essentially. So what we will try and do also is actually we try and bring all of these together in one, as I'll describe later in the workshop. But this is sort of the background. So now what I'll try and do is at least sort of describe what the key facets of this yogic psychology are. Okay, this is the background. So what is the state of yoga as described by yogic psychology, right? So what is yoga, or what is the being of yoga? What will it be like? So this comes up upfront. So this is a very beautiful text. Like we like now top down communication, right? Exact summary. So the first sutra, 4 sutras are the entire sutra. So if you understand the first 4, you don't need the rest. It's like that. So in the third sutra, he describes what is the state of yoga. He says, Tada drushtu swarupe avasthanam. Tada means then. Then means after the process of yoga, you reach this where the drashtu means one who sees. So some people call it, translated as seer, observer, perceiver, or self. So drashtu also is same root as drishti, right? Drishti we know. Drishti we see as eye, but drishti is essentially any sense. So it's more like a generic observer, which is taking in all the perceiver, or the self, the observer. Then the self abides in its own nature. Swarupe avasthanam. In its own swarup, it becomes avasthit. It becomes sthit. So we translate also this as that state of yoga is to be established in oneself. Swarupe avasthanam. To be, that is to be swasth, or be me. Right? So etymologically, this word, right, swasth, comes from swa plus tha. Swa means self, stha means sthit, stable, sthan. Even English stable comes from the same root of stha. That's avasthit in this. In fact, the paired up darshana, Sankhya darshan, describes the state as swasth only. It gives the word swasth. In this, he gives it as swarupe avasthanam to make it more clear. But there in Sankhya Sutras, it is given as swasth, that the state is known as swasth only. Same in Ayurveda also, it talks of as the word swasth. But that's where the word swasth, how do we know as swasth? People, obviously, most of you know Hindi. In Hindi or Indian languages, we see swasth as being healthy. Right? We typically relate it with as being healthy, correct? Yeah. So, but what this is saying is that that's a natural outcome. If you are established in yourself, that will be a natural outcome. So the final state as per yogic psychology is for you to be me, for everyone to be me. So being in yoga is equal to being swasth, is being equal to established in oneself. Be me. We call it very simply as be me. So how does this sound to people? This looking at the state of yoga, or knowing that this is yoga. Say even every asana, every breath, everything you do is about being established in yourself.
It seems to be like a very holistic approach to perceiving oneself.
Yes. Yeah. Holistic. Yeah. Correct, Nishita. Thank you. And welcome. So you. And also knowing this is what the word swasth means. Right? Being swamesthit, being established in yourself. And what that means to every person will be different. And we'll do, yes, Srinidhi.
I think this last point that you made, that if you are established in yourself, then you will be healthy. I think that is very uh, interesting that typically we look at good health as a goal. But here you're saying it's a natural outcome. It's not a goal.
And it is the goal in some way, the ultimate goal, right? Of the path of yoga, which is final, which is the state of Buddha also in some ways. I call it. That's the state. But that is when you are swasth. And yeah, health is a natural outcome. We don't have to struggle for it. Be it physical, mental, emotional, social, all are linked. And that's how WHO also defines it. And interestingly, it defines health as not just merely the absence of disease, but the presence of social, mental, and emotional well-being and spiritual well-being. Also, there was a clause around it. Yeah. Good. So we'll do a short exercise. We'll try and see what word comes to you. So I'll show an image, right, and see what word comes to you to sort of see as you see that image, right? Because to me, this is one way of describing the state of Swasth. Then you can just unmute and share whatever that word is for you.
Fulfilled.
Fulfilled. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Nishita. Okay, you can type it out also. Like
Open.
open. Yeah. Ruchi. Sujata says connected. Yeah, one word. Whatever is coming to your mind as you're seeing this image. Yeah.
Love.
Love. Yeah. Oh.
Maybe rooted.
Rooted. Yes. Yeah.
I I don't really have a word for it, but you can help me come to one word. I actually want to say, uh, the best version of yourself. So like
Huh?
attained the almost everything, like the best version of being you exist, being you, as in like your existence. So I don't know how to put it into one word, but
No,
if
no.
anybody comes up with a word, they can help me.
Yes. You're saying few things, being me, right? As simple as that, being me. You're saying manifest your divinity. It may be more than one words, correct? Yeah. Vivek is saying one. It's one word, just one, united, being one, everything. Yeah. So yeah, that in some ways you can take away as your definition of yuj or yog to start with, right? That's what you want to start with and then see where that goes. But yeah, those are some of the words. Many different words keep coming, but yeah, those are definitely some of the words that come. This is, by the way, a hand-drawn thing by Garima. So in her state, once she described this as saying this is the state of yoga for her. So I keep using this. Okay. So yeah, so state of yoga is to be established in your own nature, to be swasth, to be stable in myself, to be me. And to me, that's one of the simplest ones. To thrive, and then to finally manifest the divinity within. Right? That's what. Remember, that's the definition. That's how it goes. When we are ourselves, we will manifest that we are here to manifest. The divinity within will come out. What is preventing us from doing that is all that is quote unquote aswast about us. That prevents us. But if we are swast, we become more of ourselves. The more we are aligned with ourselves, the more we are ourselves, the best version of ourselves, as Nishita was saying also, then we thrive, we manifest the divinity within. And that is the process. That is what all of these processes help us get to this state where we are being ourselves, we are manifesting the divinity. Make sense? Yeah. And this is through the process of yogic psychology. We'll see the path also. But that's what it is saying. Be swasth, be yourself, be established in yourself. Okay. So another example I want to show of this, right? To be established in my own nature. Right. So does this look like that? An example of it? Yes? No? Yeah? Yes, you can give a thumbs up. Yes? Yeah? And what about this? Yes? No?
Oh,
So,
100% yes.
which one?
Both, I believe.
Both. Yes. Both can be, right? Both can be. And that's the end, that it is not, state of yoga is not some about being beautiful, perfect, happy by some standard. Somebody has defined it. So we have to be happy always. We have to be projecting some way. We have to look beautiful in how people have defined it. Right? For this tree, in this moment, based on the circumstances, this is the best way to be. It is being itself in the way it is. And that is being swasth in that moment. So being swasth, being in the yoga state of yoga, is being comfortable with who you are, in your skin, in the here and now. And that is about being yourself. In whatever, what the state, what the situation demands, you are that way. And being okay, being comfortable with that. Living, that is being swasth. And that's something I wanted to share, that it is part of this. It is not, there's no some glorious picture that we have to be always happy, always bright, always colorful. Nothing. And what it will keep telling us again and again is that we don't get stuck also in any way. We don't get stuck in either of, right? The tree never stays like this, either on the left nor on the right, right? When its season is, it will bloom, it will show like this. Now season goes away, it will start shedding leaves rather, sorry. It will shed leaves, and in our case tears. When the season changes, it will come back with leaves again and maybe fruits and give nest and do all that it has to do. So it is moving with the environment that is in, and it adapts and it does what is best. If in the time when it has to shed leaves, it has leaves, then what is the point? Right? It may not work out only, but something bad will only happen. That's why when we mess with those natural cycles, it causes its own problems. So it is being with that. That is being swasth. That is being established in yourself. What is needed then? And nothing is permanent, right? Nothing will remain the same. The environment will shift, so we also shift accordingly. We adapt, we move. We are in tune with our external. And that's what being in yoga is about. What is the state of yoga? Make sense? Yeah? Yes, I see some thumbs up. Good, good. Thank you, Arjun, Santu, Nishita. Yeah. Okay.
Sandeep ji, one question, I guess.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if all states are equivalent and there is no difference, then what is that state of being that we're even trying to pursue?
That is what the state of being you. And you can't be you outside the context of the environment in which you are. So till you are in an embodied form, you will be that way. But once, if you do leave the embodied form, whoever, if there is something, that will be in its way, whatever that context is. But you work with what is there. And it is not like no state, like you said, I think no state in an absolute sense is wrong or right. But in the context, it may be different. Okay. Right? There is a state which is you in this context, and there is a state which is not you in this context. And those are the states which come from sometimes from our, and we'll see where that come from, which is where the process of yoga comes in as per yogic psychology, right? Which is our beliefs, our identities, our roles, our patterns in some ways.
When I saw the image on the right, for example, I was reminded of someone who's angry, someone who's, let's say, lashing out, kind of pushing people away, a bunch of those things that we typically associate with not a state that is ideal either for themselves or for those around them. That's why I was curious about this idea that both of them are in a state of yoga. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem like the right side is desirable in most cases.
Yes. So let's take anger. I think that's a good example, right? So anger is typically, so in my experience now, anger is not what takes you away from, there is a role for anger in life, right? So if there is anger, to me, is an indication our boundary is breached. Right? So anger is a way to reassert our boundary. That is the role of anger. And once we reassert our boundary, the role of anger is gone. So when we have to reassert our boundary, anger is there, it's in yoga. But what happens today? We stay angry. Boundary has been asserted. Things have gone back, but we stay angry. We hold on to that anger. Or we didn't assert our boundary at all. We felt helpless. So we kept holding and suppressing our anger. Then we have gone off our state of Swasth, right? Then we are not Swasth. So when that anger now comes in the form of all pent up anger from the past and all, then that is not the state of yoga, because that's not about this moment. It is coming from all of that has come. It comes out in a different context. इसका गुस्सा उस पर निकाला type हो जाता है, right? So we got pushed here, but we took it out somewhere else. Then it's out of context again. So then that is not again yoga. So again, anger in itself is not about saying it's in yoga or not.
Got it. And what you're saying is, like, if you pretend to be happy in a situation where the boundaries are breached, that is not a state of yoga, because you're basically then denying what the reality is.
Yes. That false optimism or false pessimism, though both are not states of yoga, right? Where we are just trying to be positive for the sake of it when we know what the reality is. It's not.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like growing leaves when the leaves have to be shed, right? Exactly that. But there is a time for the leaves to be shed also. Yeah. And that is the goal we are trying to aspire for as per yogic psychology, to be yourself in the here and now, whatever that is. And then move also. Nothing stays static. That is the beauty, right? Your context will change, your external and your internal environment will change. So you cannot remain the same way. That's how dynamic we are. We're far more dynamic actually than the trees are in that sense, right? We are more dynamic. So our change cycles are even shorter in that sense. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense?
One quick follow-up, Sandeep. I think because trees can't move, right? So trees are unable to change their environment, whereas we can. Is there any kind of guidance on, is there a state that is between the two? It seems like the left one is more desirable because the tree is in full bloom and there's leaves and there's photosynthesis happening and whatever else. And the right side is what we associate with death and decay. If we have the choice, should we aspire for one if you're able to change the environment? Or I'm just curious about how that works.
So in my experience, again, I will come to it. I think as we go deeper in this yogic psychology also itself, that yes, you can say we can change the environment. But in my experience, if there are some quote unquote unresolved things within us, we change the environment, we face very similar situations there also. We think we are changing the environment, but we get those kinds of situations. They look different, but we'll get those kinds of situations. So, like an example I'll give you, with me that happened. Like I was facing a bully, and my pattern from my early life was to avoid bullies. So, flight response in some ways, avoid the bully, change the environment, go to another place where I don't find that, for example. But there, when I changed it, I found another bully. So some other bully will come up, right? In another form, we may change the form, right? It may come up in a different kind of relationship. Here it was in a different relationship. And that happened. In me, in one case, it was a very different relationship. We were a for-profit entity and that was coming from some place. And when you became a non-profit, got a different kind of bully. Actually, this happened, for example. Right? So life will keep throwing things at you because that pattern is within you. And somehow we attract that also. That's how the system works. We are part of this ecosystem, right? So we think we are changing the environment, but yeah, the environment also changes. And we attract certain things to ourselves. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Continue. Now we'll talk of, so this was the state. I want to now talk about the process as described. So we'll get a flavor of the process also of what yogic psychology says. But that's what a lot of the text is about. So we may not, obviously we'll just touch upon it today. So what is the process of yoga as per yogic psychology, right? So the essence of that process comes in the second sutra, right? We saw the third sutra, tada drushtu swarupe avasthanam. The second sutra says the process, saying that if you follow this process, you will get to this state of being swasth. But what is that process? It says Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So what is yoga? Yoga is when the patterns of the mind, chitta vritti. So vrit in Sanskrit means also circle. It's a repetition. So vritti is like a pattern. Right? So patterns of what? Of the mind, chitta. And the patterns of the mind come to nirodha. It's an effortless stoppage or cessation. It's not virodha. There is no suppression. So we work in a way that the pattern stops operating. So yoga are those processes, are those tools. When we do that, then the patterns of the mind come to an effortless stoppage or cessation. Those are the tools. So remember what are the tools we saw? Asana, pranayam, just bringing into context. Why are we doing that? So that our patterns dissolve in some ways. So first question might be, what are patterns, right? So as I described, some patterns are, like I gave an example, right? To avoid bullies in life, right? So that's a flight pattern, saying if I sense an energy of somebody trying to dominate me, which was my case, like a bully, I'll try and avoid that. That was a pattern. And that was operational. It doesn't mean it was always wrong, but when it's a pattern, it's forced, it's compulsive, then it is. There are times when you need to do flight. Nothing wrong with flight. In fact, in Krishna's stories also, he is known as Ranchod because he left the battlefield so many times because he knew couldn't win that day. So flight is a valid response, but it's when. It shouldn't be a habit. It's not a pattern. It's not compulsion. You do it with awareness, then it's okay. If not, then what do you do? So all are valid responses as long as we do it. That's what this is saying. It's not saying it's a state where there is no mind. There is no, people often describe it as no mind state. It's not no mind state. It is no pattern state. So if there is no pattern, what will it be? You will be in the here and now. You will be, what does this moment demand? You will do that. You will not operate from a pattern which is formed from your past experiences. You will say, this moment, what does it demand? You will not go with, oh, this happened last time I succeeded, so this time also I will, etc. No, because every situation is different and you will be able to sense that difference and accordingly adapt. So that is what this is saying. So the process is to free ourselves. It's actually a process of freedom. That is the true freedom we seek. When we say Swaraj, that is the Swaraj, Swa ka Raj, the governance of yourself. That is what you really want within you. And that comes when we are free from our patterns. Otherwise, patterns are governing us. And in 4th Sutra, it says, Vritti Sarupya Itarutra, which means if you don't do this, you will become Sarupya. You will become same as your Vritti. Means you will just live out your Vritti, your pattern. In the first 4, he just very clearly says this, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Tadadrushtu Swarupe Avasthanam, Vritti Sarupya Itaratra. Means if you don't do it, then you will become Sarupya with Vritti. Otherwise, Swarupe Avasthanam. Tadadrushtu Swarupe Avasthanam. Otherwise, you will become like your Vritti. You will just keep living your patterns. And they'll keep building up, they'll keep continuing. So the whole process of yogic psychology is to free yourself from your mental patterns, which can be behavioral, because all behavioral patterns have their origin in the mind, right? There is something, your beliefs, your mindsets, good, bad, all of that actually is what we work with. And all that we do in the name of yoga, if you ever do asana, pranayam, breath work, meditation, the reason to do is to free yourself from patterns. That's the origin. And that is why sort of we also share this upfront that you're not doing asana to build a body. It's not physical exercise. It's not even for physical health. It is to free yourself from patterns because patterns reside in the body also. It resides in our mind and our mind is across our body. Mind is not here. If I ask you, where is your mind? Most people will point here. I didn't ask it, so I'm pointing. But this is the brain. This is not the mind. This is where our brain is. Brain is an organ of the body. Mind is an emergent property. It is across our body, our physical body. It's a functional component of our existence. It's not a physical. There is no structure to mind. Mind is a functional process. And it's across. It's everywhere. There was a recent experiment which showed how memory is there in every cell of the body. The scientists are discovering, which has been stated so many years ago, but now science is getting there. Otherwise, we all thought memory is only here in the brain, but it is all across now. That's where neuroscience and all the recent science is coming. Yes, Nishita.
Is that where the phrase muscle memory comes from?
Is that the phrase where muscle memory comes from? So, yeah, so actually, part of it, muscle memory first, the way even scientists use it is actually wrong, because in their understanding, the memory is not in the muscle, it's in the neural connections of the muscle. So, it's actually in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
nervous system. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so that nervous system is across our body. In that sense,
Yes,
yes, there is some memory
yes.
across our body in the neurons. But they are now finding other structures also across our body where there are
Oh,
memories.
oh,
So, in
okay.
fact, even in actual muscles, also there can be memories. In the way the
Oh,
muscle cells stay, in the way the fascia, the connective tissue in our body actually gets set. And that forces certain things.
oh,
So,
all
for
right.
example, if you have noticed, I'll give you a very simple example. If you have seen people with shoulders like this, right?
Yeah.
Or they will be like this. And you will see they have an attitude which is different. If they are mostly like this, they have a very different attitude and belief versus when they are like this. So
Hmm.
as their body develops, as incidents happen, they become like this, and their fascia then locks it. So they are like this, even without knowing. They are by default like this, for example, or they may be like this. So this is one of the common things. Same happens with the neck, in the freedom of the movement of the neck. That also influences things. So everything has its influence then.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions on this? So we obviously won't go too much in detail on this process, but we'll try a short practice also to understand this a little bit more. But that this is the basic process of every process of yoga. Everything after that has come from it. So, for example, Shiva Sutras have 112 forms of yoga. They are all part of this Raj Yoga discipline, for example. Right? They will give different ways, but they are all based on how do you get free from patterns of the mind. And they are based on even things like dance, music, right? They can become forms of yoga. Lehe, sound, just like that. Asana pranayam is separate. That is another. So Patanjali described in a certain way. We will look at those. But then that's why there is so much proliferation on the ways, on the methods. But everything you or anything you do in the name of yoga has its origin here, which is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. You have to become free from the patterns of the mind. Make sense? Hmm. Okay. Yeah, we'll try something. Let me see. So one other way that I have described it, sorry, the screen come up, is that these are process tools, techniques towards silence of the mind. We're trying to bring mind to a state of silence. Okay. So let's try a practice, right? So let's try this. Everyone will do 1 minute. I'll keep time. Only 1 minute. Is that okay? So you can close your eyes, silence of the mind, and try and make your mind silent for a minute. Slowly, we'll stop the process. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently open your eyes slowly. So, how was the experience? I'm trying to make the mind silent. You can unmute and just share. You can describe what you tried and what happened, maybe. Yeah, Nishita, go ahead.
So I told my mind to focus on the breath,
Hmm.
and I was doing the box breathing. So all the conversation that went on was about, okay, imagine a breath, imagine a box, 1, 2, 3, 4, in 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, all of that.
Hmm.
But I could do it, so it did not seem like too difficult. Uh,
Hmm.
and honestly, it's only because I've been doing it for some time now. So I was just glad that I could do it for a minute without any interruptions.
But did you feel the mind being silent when you did that? Like when you're doing 1, 2,
So
3, 4, and
there weren't any other thoughts except what I tried to focus on. So now
okay.
I don't really know if that was mind being silent or that
Hmm.
was me being engaged in the box breathing.
Ah, okay. But how did you feel?
It f- it felt nice. It felt like
Yeah.
I was able to do it, so I was just happy
Ah.
about it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but I want you to answer. Was that mind being occupied at something, or was that mind being silenced?
Yeah, we'll do that. You will only answer in some time. We'll do another
All
exercise.
right.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody else?
So I tried. So since we just spoke about the fact that mind is all over the body, so I was trying to focus on something else. Otherwise, generally, what happens when we are trying to focus, it automatically shifts towards the head part. So this time I was
Hmm.
trying to focus on some other. So I was breathe. Of course, I was focusing on the breathing, but through the stomach. So I felt it worked in the sense that there were very less amount of thinking or thoughts passing through. I just felt my stomach was uh, going out and coming back and all. So yeah, there was a very no other thoughts pass through.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that felt like silence to you also, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Good. Anyone else?
So I had a similar experience. I first tried to silence my mind, clear out all the thoughts, and then I remembered you saying that the mind is all over the body. So I tried to relax my body also, and I was also smiling at myself that on this at this thought. So, but I
Okay.
tried to just relax the body and the mind. I don't know if that was the idea, but that is what I was trying.
Yeah. And how did you feel? Did you experience that
I
silence?
Yes. So I did feel a bit of relaxation of the body, and I could feel myself being thoughtless. Like I didn't have any active thoughts, but I didn't, except for this one.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else?
It's funny. Like for me, I was trying to understand what does silence mean, and what does it mean to keep the mind silent.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a series of thoughts around: is silence the absence of sound, or is it almost like an inability to even have sound? And
Hmm.
so that kind of thought took me to this idea that maybe true silence can only be found in like deep space, where
Hmm.
sound cannot travel. But even there, you have light, which can travel without a medium. And this is entire physics thing that kind of like started happening. But that idea was, I think, something that was very interesting. That
Yeah.
is the thought coming to the mind, or is the mind in a place where thoughts don't necessarily emerge at all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anybody else tried something? Want to share? Okay. No worries. We'll try now this next exercise, right? So we'll try slightly different. Now, what I'm suggesting you do is close your eyes, keep your full attention to the sounds around you. So focus your entire attention on the sounds, right? Whatever is there, whatever sound, it might be whatever is there in your surrounding. Yeah, pay full attention to the sounds. Can do for 1 minute? Okay, so let's try that. Will bring your attention to my voice and slowly we'll close 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently open your eyes. So, how was this experience for people? Was it any different from before?
So for me, it felt like a lot more than a minute. It's like I was able to focus for a long time, and then I was wondering, is the minute still not over? And then somewhere mind started getting diverted. Then again, I got it back. That kind of went on for some time.
And when you were able to stay, what was that experience like with the sounds?
It was good. It was like I was enjoying the sound. I mean, there was a texture to it. I could feel it was like the waves, the sound of waves. So I was trying to hear to the sound of my fan. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Nishita?
So for me, it was a lot less effort. I don't know why. I could just be. Uh, I did not have to guide my mind to focus on my breath. I could simply just focus on the sounds that were going around, and I could do it for the minute. Whereas there was this one point where I could hear my breath and it going in, and you see how in the animated videos how you see the body functions, right? Like lungs are taking in the air and breathing out, like passing it to the, so
Hmm.
it was some, like the later half of the minute I actually transitioned into the internal, trying to figure out the internal sounds, and it was very effortless. Like I did not have to tell my mind, okay, let's focus here.
Ah, wow. And how did that feel?
It was interesting. It was sort of an animated movie going on inside. Yeah.
And how was the state of the mind? You said one, it was effortless, right? More.
It was. I did not really focus on, okay, it needs to be quiet. It was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The quietness came. Okay. Good. Thank you. I was seeing some nods from, yeah, Sid also. Yeah. How was it for you guys?
Yeah, definitely easier than the first one. I felt like this felt more natural as well. Felt like this is just what we do in daily life in any case. Just pay attention to sound. So in that sense, it was easier. And then I think paying attention this time was immediately then parsing it into like, what are the three sources of the sounds that I'm hearing? What's each one? And then one of them is less desirable than the others. Can we have that one sound maybe go off? But I know let's be curious about like why there's a desire for one sound and not for the other. But it was a lot easier than the first time for sure.
Awesome. Okay. So there was some moment initially till that analysis started that it was a little quieter, is my sense. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Anyone else? Yeah, if you haven't shared in the first, you can still share. Yeah, Priya, go ahead. You had
And it
unmuted, then
felt
you can share.
more, yeah, it felt natural, more, it was easier also. And
Ah,
towards the end, I actually started yawning. I don't, I
interesting.
got a couple of yawns here.
Srinidhi is yawning, hearing you also. So that's good. We welcome yawns in these sessions. So yawns are good. Okay. So how did it feel for you though?
It felt very like I was not resisting anything. So after this, I understood that the first time there was a conscious effort to direct the mind to not think, which was not there this time. It was very
Yeah.
effortless.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Priya. Yes, Rajendra ji.
Yeah, I could hear one song. Some music was going on, and I could feel the waves in my head. They were also trying to harmonize with that rhythm of that song.
Yeah. And how did that feel for you? The rhythm.
Absolutely, I was feeling very light, peaceful, cool, and calm.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, calm. Okay. Anybody else wants to share how was it different, the two experiences? Or... No? Okay. Srinidhi, any thoughts? I'm seeing you're reflecting, but I just thought I'll ask.
Like I feel I'm not sure in what way it was different for me. Similar to Arjun, I was also focusing on the fan. That was the most obvious sound around me. But I think in both cases, my mind was wandering all over the place, and I was not necessarily trying to bring it to something. I was just letting it happen. It's just that in the beginning of the second exercise, my mind was on the fan, but then again it went.
Again, it went. And then for
And
the
I let
moment
it,
it was in,
and I let
you
it
let
happen.
it. Yeah. And for the moment it was on in the fan, was it any different?
I think it was like barely for a few seconds. So.
Few seconds. Okay. Good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think the thing between these two is that in one we are trying a direct approach to silence the mind. In some ways we are keeping that intention. In the other we are doing it indirectly by paying attention, as some of you described, right? There is a certain effortlessness, there is a certain calm which comes by just paying attention to the whatever the sounds are. Actually, at some level it doesn't matter what the sounds are. I have tried it now with traffic and etc also at some point. But yes, there are sounds which will trigger you, so they will feel like or they are not good sounds, and that's where patterns come in. what Siddharth was describing. You start analyzing them, saying this is good, this is pleasant, this is unpleasant. And then we start seeing. But as we start being with that, as we practice even this more and more, you find that the mind starts becoming more and more quiet. Right? And that's sort of that state of silence of the mind where we are attuned to whatever is. So sound is one of the things that is around us, right? It's good, bad, or whatever. It is one of the, it's actually constantly coming in. Right now you're listening to me, but the sound you were most likely still there, right? That fan is still there, and the three sounds that they are still there. But now you're somehow filtering it out. That's the beauty of our ear, also our mechanism, that we are actually quite attuned to it. So we are in some ways ignoring. That's part of our system, ignores what is there, because that's part of our wiring, also what we tend to ignore and what we don't. But it's just that. So from that, at least doing this a few times, I have come to understand, at least in the way I see it now, is that silence is, I define it not as the absence of sound, like what I think Siddharth you were saying on those lines, but it's the absence of noise. So when the noise in our mind goes, that's when there is silence. It's not a state of no thought. It's not a state of thought will be there, but it is not a state of noise. But there is a lot of source of noise within us also, right? That we keep generating ourselves. Our patterns do that. And that's where the patterns come in. So patterns are, when they are operational, they will keep generating thoughts. A lot of those are noise. Noise meaning they are not functional. They are not really relevant for the here and now. They are either about the past or about the future. Too much in the future. They are not relevant even now. Right? So those are what I'm putting out as noise. We start anticipating, we start thinking of things that this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And we start doing all that process, which is our mind is capable of. And sometimes it's relevant, but many times it's not. And that generates that noise signal in our mind. So that is sort of the thought I wanted to leave with. Yes, Arjun, you raised your hand. Any questions, comments?
No, just I wanted to ask, what do you mean by noise? You answered that.
Nothing. Yeah, it makes sense, right? What I'm describing as noise, that does happen. So it's about, yes, in the here and now, what is there? So we stay tuned to that, right? So with that sort of context, yeah, let's see where this goes. Yeah, silence is not the absence of sound, it's the absence of noise, right? And in that context, chitta vritti nirodha is not the absence of mind. It's not the suppression of thoughts. It is the automatic cessation of patterns of the mind, the absence of noise in our thoughts, the presence of mental coherence and clarity. Because then there will be coherence in whatever there is. Right? And coherence is sort of the key here. When that is there, it will feel silent. It's not this is one of the things I find many times when people talk of meditation, this state of shunya, they will describe as everything is absent and the mind is only absent. I don't think I have reached there in my experience, nor I think that is what is actually meant. Till we have this embodied existence, the mind will be there. It is just that the state of the mind, is it with noise or is it coherent? Is it with clarity? Is it the noise is absent? Or we are and that's the process. So the entire process of yoga, the chitta vritti nirodha, all the steps we are taking is towards reduction of this noise. So it's a continuous process. It doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen in, sometimes it's a journey. It won't happen in a year. You're just reducing the extent of noise. So the metric of success is not that, oh, have I become completely perfect or full yogi or a Buddha, right? That doesn't happen. It's a journey, sometimes even across lifetimes. But it is a journey saying, am I reducing the level of noise in my mind? That's the metric to look for. Is there more coherence, more clarity, more calmness, more silence, all the words used, more rootedness, like you said, more love? Is there more of that? Which means in 24 hours, has the time in which I stay in that state increasing? Because the final is all 24 hours we are like that. That's where you want to get to. That's when there is no pattern operating. But what happens is, it's a process. It doesn't happen immediately. So we remove all the barriers which are coming in the way to uh, create this noise. We are reducing those root cause of noise is what we are removing, and those are the patterns. That's what we work with.
Uh, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah, go
I
ahead.
wanted to ask that we initially do this consciously, like
Hmm.
with awareness, and
Yes.
then eventually it goes on to a state of uh, where you don't put conscious awareness or effort. Is that how we move around it?
Yes, you will do it with conscious effort. So what happens? Your time in the day where you stay with it without conscious effort will keep increasing. Right? There are 24 hours in the day. So initially you will practice. It's a skill. Finally, it's a skill to be present in the moment. So just like any other skill, you will practice on your own in a good environment like your home, steady. It will start floating into rest of your day. As you do that rest of the day, that time will keep increasing. But that doesn't mean all 24 hours will shift to effort. That will happen. That's the final state where it becomes very effortless 24 hours. But more and more time of your day, you will become that.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Arjun. And sorry, before that, more and more time and more situations in life. So these patterns, as we will see, pattern means there is a trigger that is starting that pattern. There is an input to the pattern which starts it, right, to function. So as you release patterns, there will be less and less things which will get you into the pattern mode. So you'll be more present in more situations also. And that's how your more time increases in the day. Yes, Arjun.
So I wanted to share my experience on this. So a lot of times, so I've spent a long time in Bangalore, and the Bangalore traffic always is a trigger for me. And I have noticed that whenever I went to some kind of course like Swasth ya fir Art of Living or something, and every time I would come out of those courses for a very long time, I would not get impacted by the traffic, the sounds of the traffic or anything. I would still be in a very like calm state for at least a day or two or things. So I think that is a quite a what you were saying. I could actually feel that it happened to me. That whenever we do such things like meditation or vipassana or any of those things, and we come out of it, it actually stays with you for at least some time. And if one can practice it on a regular basis, it might stay for longer time. But it does, and like
Yes.
nothing impacts you very strongly for some time after that.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So this is the process of yoga. Now we're coming to close. Before we close, I'll do two things. One, we'll try another thing to just get this notion of the end state of yoga. Remember, tada drushtu swarupe avasthanam and yoga chitta vritti nirodha. We'll try one more thing. So everyone has their mobile phones with you? Sorry. Yeah. Can you put it on this lock mode where there is no screensaver or anything? Just like this. Can it come in that? Yeah. All are able to do? Yes. Now, when you are in this mode, and now you look at it carefully, what do you see?
It's just black.
Black. See if there's what else are you seeing?
Seeing my reflection in it.
Yeah,
I can
you're
see
seeing
the time and date.
time. Oh, yours is not fully black. But besides the time and date, anything else? Are you seeing your reflection also, or reflection of the lights, etc. around you? Yes.
Yes.
So that is the idea of this. That is the essential idea of yoga. Right? So what I mean by that is this. Right? So when the patterns, which is what is playing on the screen, subsides, you will see the reflection of yourself. Tada drushtu swarupe avasthanam. So when the chitta vritti nirodha stop, when the vritti stop, what you will see is a reflection of yourself in your own mind. And that is the process. That is the process of yogic psychology. That's how it operates, saying we quieten our mind so we can see ourselves, our true selves. And that can be described as whatever, observer, self, etc. Drushtu avasthana. In this, the only difference is this is a different entity than me. Here, this is happening within us. So it's a little bit more abstract, a little bit more. But this was the most concrete example I can think of to make this concept clear on what they are intending to say. That in your mind, when your mind becomes clear of whatever is playing. So in mind, imagine there is a screen and something is playing. Our past, our memories are playing, our things are playing. All that are coming from our patterns, right? That's how it's described also. Once those stop playing, then whatever is left, so maybe date time is left, something is left, but you will start seeing more and more of yourself, more and more of your true self. Yeah, makes sense? Yeah. Okay. So with that, I'll define yogic psychology. We saw this is the psychology. What was the definition of psychology? So yogic psychology is internal. In yoga, it's defined as the mind, the chit. External is the body. Let's say external to the mind. It's taken from the view of the mind. Because it's psychology in yoga, everything is taken from the view of the mind. It says internal is the mind, behavior or external is the body. There is a connection between them. And same way, the third party is actually the observer. So there is an entity or there is a part of us which is just an objective observer. It is not doing any analysis. It is not doing anything. That's the drashta. And that is also connected with the mind. So what we do in yogic psychology is the study of the yuj, how the observer, the mind and the body are coming together. In those three forms, it can come in any which way. We are trying to bring our body, mind and observer, all three aspects of our being together to be free from our patterns and be swasth, be me. That's what yogic psychology is all about. Yeah, makes sense? And I'll give a quick overview also of what we will cover. What next is this, of course, the workshop, which will go in detail in the Yoga Sutras and bring out some of these things. This is starting Tuesdays, November 11th, 8 to 9:15 p.m., similar time. But starts November 11th, I think, because of Diwali and I think Halloween, etc. We've sort of said after that. And then I am traveling. What we will look at are the processes. So expand on this. We'll see what are the patterns, what are the kinds of patterns, how are they formed, what are the root cause of patterns. So we can work with them from that root level. So that if we go to Svasa, it gets dissolved for some time, but when we come out, it comes back, right? So how do we work at the pattern at the root level also sometimes so that it doesn't go out? And that requires working both with the body and the mind because they are connected. What are different kinds of patterns? As I said, their origins. What are approaches and strategies to be pattern free? So we'll look at those approaches. We'll look at what are the key principles, tools, and techniques in general that are given. This is a Yoga Sutras. I'm right now doing a workshop which has already been 1 year, 2 sessions a week, and we have only completed chapter 2. So it is a long process. But what I'm trying to do in this is actually share what Maharishi Patanjali has shared. So he is a very interesting person. Just to give a quick background of him also, you see these two images. These are two installations. He is also like mythically a half snake, half human, like a form of Sheshnag he is known. He's obviously also a Maharishi. He gave yoga for the mind. He's supposed to have given 3 gifts. Sanskrit grammar for the speech and Ayurveda for the body. But these 2 texts on grammar and Ayurveda are not available. This is the one which survived. So in Ayurveda, we end up using more of Charvak and Sushrut. And this we use Panini, Maharishi Panini's work. But his work on this has survived and this is what stayed, which we use. Very quickly, this is divided in 4 chapters. I'll share this slide so you can go in more detail. But it has 4 chapters: Samadhi, Sadhan, Vibhuti, and Kaivalya. Different focus of each chapters. We will look at some aspects like Samadhi Pad is defining the broad journey, some principles which we'll look at. Sadhan Pad actually gets into the techniques and some concepts on kleshas, karmas. The Ashtang Yoga actually comes here, Asan, Pranayam, all that. Vibhuti Pad is about a lot of the benefits we get. but it also gives a warning to not get caught. So it describes benefits like levitation, like becoming very strong. All that will, they say, it will happen in this journey, but not to get caught up in these magical powers. And the last is it Kaivalya path, which it describes. Kaivalya is another way, another state. It's the name of another name of the state of yoga at the large stage, which is often translated as, like I said, silence, peace, oneness, onlyness, or freedom. So each chapter has its own uniqueness. It's a very good mix of the how and the why. So there is theory about across sutras about 38% and practical is 62%. It focuses not, as I said, much on the tools. The tools are not detailed much. Like asana is only 3, pranayam is 5, like that. So it's very terse on that, but it gives a lot of other tools which are more mental, which people don't actually share that much. The way the content is covered across chapters, as you can see, Kaivalya Path is where most of the theory is, right? 42% theory comes here in the last chapter. And even this chapter is largely theory. Now, what happens if you read commentaries, you will find that they go sequentially. Traditional commentaries go sequentially. They go verse by verse. So what happens is people read the initial, they get fascinated by tools. They start using the tools. They start getting the benefits. And oftentimes they don't end up talking about the theory. So the theory gets lost and we get caught up in the tools. And those tools have been detailed now. Like Hatha Yoga goes in detail on asanas. Now asanas in the Yoga Sutras, I said three verses and no specific asana. Then the next one came up with 4, then 16. Now we have 2000 plus asanas. So he has defined the principle of an asana. You can make your own asana. That's how much freedom it gives you, right? So, and that's how it is meant to be. What we will do though is we'll cover the why and how together. That's how my idea is to cover these together, combine this. We do not cover the sutras in sequence. We go by relevant topics. Like I said, what are these patterns? How do these patterns get formed? So it will go across chapters. But how do we apply it in our life? Most importantly, be our own psychologist. Like you saw that observer. How do we have the observer first? Because that observer is what will help us be our own psychologist. We then don't need a third party observer. That's our third party. How do we work with that? Right? So we do not cover it in sequence. The topic is covered based on how it is. That's how we'll cover it. These are 3 of the reference texts that I always suggest, and we will use them also. I'll use a lot of them. That has been sort of very, very central for me. Obviously, we'll get these slides, and these 3 are very interesting because the same sutra they will define differently because they come from different backgrounds. So you will see Swami Vivekananda ji, he's the integrator. He integrates all 4, and his guru was a bhakti yogi wala, right? Paramahans Ramkishan. Swami Satyanand Saraswati, he was himself a pure Yog Sankhya person, but his guru was a Vedantist, Swami Sivanand. And Desikachar, his guru was also his father, Krishnamacharya, who was a pure yoga philosophy guy. So he grew up under his father, like traditional Gurukul, in pure, drenched in yoga philosophy. So these 3 have slightly different views. Even the same sutra, you will find different translations. So I like to do that. Besides these 3, I have read at least 4, 5, 6 more and integrated all of that to sort of create this and brought in little bit of Buddhism, Buddha's text, little bit of neuroscience to create what is practical for us. That's what we'll try and cover in the workshop. Yeah, and we'll share the slides. Good, we are at time. We'll close, and this is there in case you want to, of course. We'll share the handout, the session recordings, and you can scan this to join the group where you will be able to know about this workshop and then take it from there. If you have not already enrolled, so that's up to you. Okay, so we'll close with our prayer. Sarve Bhavantu. And if there are questions, I'm still around here, so I'll stay back, but we'll make others speak. Okay, so sit comfortably. You can repeat after me. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramayah. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschit दुख भाव भवे। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Thank you, everyone. I'm keeping this slide in case you want to scan, and if there are questions, I'm around.
Sir, I
Thank you.
had a query. I
Yes.
wanted to know, is the Journey of Ram, that workshop by you, is coming anytime soon?
Journey of Ram, na?
Yeah.
So the next version is there in, I think, Pune in person. That will happen, I think, around early March next year.
Oh, the online one
Beyond.
is not happening anytime soon?
No, online one, I don't know if next year when it is planned. I don't remember. But yeah, in person abhi to Pune mein hai. It's a day thing. So if you are
It's a
interested,
one-day thing.
sorry,
How
it's a one
long?
day thing. One day, morning to
Okay.
evening. That's it. So it's either 5 weeks over like that, 6 weeks online, or 1 week, one session in person.
Oh, okay. All right. So, those details will eventually come in on the WhatsApp group, right?
Yes, it will come on that group. It will also come on our website, this institute.swasth.org. Maybe on workshops, it will keep coming. As the dates get finalized, I think it might be updated already also.
All right. Okay, I've not gone through the WhatsApp website, but I did go through a couple of weeks ka WhatsApp messages, so I could not see
हाँ,
in any of that. Therefore, I thought I'll
हाँ.
just.
I don't know. Matlab, it's been decided. I don't know if they've updated it on the website yet.
Okay. Okay. All right.
They haven't updated the dates, I think. Yes. But it'll be, I know it's in early March. So
Okay,
it's in
sir.
Journey of
Mm.
Ram. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Sandhi, I have a question. So, when you say that the ultimate objective is to see ourselves, like to see ourselves clearly, so what ours, like what aspect of ourselves, like are you pointing towards something specific, like which aspect of ourselves?
So this one says Tada Drushtu Sorupe Avasthanam. It's to see as in the Drushtu becomes established in its own self. Right? Swasth, that is the Swasth, right? The Drushtu or the Drashta, the observer, that becomes established in itself. In Sankhya or the system, it's described as the soul is that part. So the soul is established in itself. So from a Karam Yoga standpoint, it's like it's living its purpose. From a Bhakti Yoga standpoint, it is devoted to whoever it has to be devoted to. From a Gyan Yoga perspective, you are experiencing yourself. You know yourself by experience, your true nature or the true nature of the soul. Right. So it will sort of show up different ways based on the system, but they all sort of are leading to that same place where you are yourself. In some ways, it's, to me, that's why I describe that tree. You are being yourself in the context and the environment that you are. Right. So, for example, Buddha, after he got his enlightenment, he didn't dissolve or disappear. Right. After that, for 40 years, he went around spreading the message, right, supporting others in this journey, communicating what he had. So that he found as his purpose in some ways. That was him being established in himself, saying, my purpose now is to spread this message in this body form.
All right. So I think so. When I say like or anybody says that they got to know themselves, it is basically to understand their true nature and also their purpose.
Yes, that's what I would think. And in an embodied form, that will be essential. Right? There is something this body has to do. The prarabdha karma ka concept. You have to do something here in this. And till that has to happen, or if you have been found, then that's part of it. But finding that purpose is also a journey only. That search starts, and then that is the journey that continues. And it is this journey of, as you keep becoming pattern free, you release your patterns, you get closer and closer to knowing that and living your purpose. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.